So we're going to be talking to the former Israeli Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni and also to Mohammad اشتية, an advisor to President Abbas and a member of the Fatah Central Committee. First, Mohammad اشتية joins me from Ramallah. Welcome to the program. You heard what both your president and President Trump said. You heard what the people are saying on the streets of Ramallah. First and foremost, why is your president so optimistic that this American president will do what the others haven't been able to do?
Well, it's simply because it seems that President Trump, as well as his team, they seem to be very serious about this issue. And also from day one, President Trump wanted to be fully engaged, contrary to the previous president, who himself was actually not fully behind his Secretary of State. And President Abbas goes to Washington with aspirations of his people and to explain the narrative of the Palestinians vis-a-vis the conflict with Israel. We are determined with the Palestinian people. We all believe that it is we who will benefit most from any successful peace talks. And now this American president, he has loudly and clearly declared that he would like to put the political weight of the White House behind the peace process that is to be in the making. Now, the real test for President Trump, I think, is that will he be able to deliver Prime Minister Netanyahu or not? I think the real test, whether the American administration, the new American administration, this American administration will be able to freeze settlements, which was the main reason behind the breaking of the previous rounds of talks. This is something that we would like to see. Mr. Greenblatt was here. President Trump, obviously, he is into this direction and he wants to construct a deal. We are hopeful that he will do that. Our hands and minds are open for that.
Let me stop you a second, because you've just mentioned the presidential envoy, Mr. Greenblatt, who was there, obviously met people on all sides of this. Have they given you any indication that there is a new strategy in the works? Or was the White House meeting more of a photo opportunity and a sort of sort of breaking the ice between two leaders who haven't met each other before? Do you believe that there is a new idea coming from this president?
Well, I think the White House and the envoys are still in the listening mood. And listening mood, it means that we know there is a new team and there is a learning curve for the new team. So the whole idea of this meeting is that for our president to really explain the Palestinian position and to put the Palestinian aspirations and to show that he is positive and he wants to engage. And he actually, with the same Israeli Prime Minister, he did have so many meetings. It was very unfortunate that Mr. Netanyahu couldn't deliver what he promised, and Mr. Netanyahu continued with his settlement policy, and Mr. Netanyahu continued to sabotage the peace process. Our side, President Abbas, all of us, we were very forthcoming, and really we are very ready to really engage and fully, because at the end of the day, time is a crucial factor and time is the enemy for peace, because Israel every single day is creating a new fait accompli on the ground that does not only sabotage, but it does destroy a possibility of a Palestinian state, and consequently it does destroy any future two-state solution. This is a situation in which we all want to avoid. President Abbas was very hopeful that President Trump is forthcoming and he wants to engage, and we will wait to see, and we hope that President Trump and his team, they move from listening mood to the mood of action.
All right, Mr. Shtayyeh, as you know, and I said, politics on both sides have moved to the extremes. You have a very, very serious competition from Hamas, and the leader of Hamas, Khalid Mashal, just proposed a new, more, he hopes, palatable charter that will allow him to compete with Fatah in any upcoming elections. This is what he told our Nick Robertson in Qatar just a couple of days ago.
This is a plea from me to the Trump administration, the new American administration. Break out from the wrong approaches of the past, and which did not arrive at a result, and perhaps to grab the opportunity presented by Hamas's charter.
Well, do you really think the Israelis, the United States, are going to engage with Hamas? And are you going to engage with Hamas? What does this mean, this new charter, for the process?
Well, unfortunately, you know, the new charter of Hamas is 43 years behind the PLO charter. Hamas is now talking about a Palestinian state on the border of 67. This is something that the PLO has done in 1988 and even before that in 1974. So Hamas charter does not really bring anything new. For Hamas to try to put its credentials to the White House or to Washington or to Europe, it's more appropriate for Hamas to put its credentials behind the Palestinian leader. President Abbas does not only represent the West Bank. President Abbas represents and presents the Palestinian people wherever they are, in the diaspora, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Jerusalem, and so forth. Why? Simply because he is the chairman of the PLO, and the PLO, even to Hamas, is considered to be the sole legitimate representative to the Palestinian people. Right. So for Hamas, with its new charter, which is really very old and much behind, I think it is time for Hamas to come to reconciliation with Fatah on one hand, and on the other hand, to accept the charter of the PLO, to accept the commitments of the PLO, which really calls for peace, which calls for two states, which has a commitment also vis-a-vis the international community in fighting terrorism and fighting radicalism. So therefore, I think it is crucial for Gaza and the West Bank to become one unity in order for us to achieve a two-state solution.
Well, let us pursue that last comment with the former Israeli Foreign Minister, Tzipi Livni. Mr. Shtayyeh, thank you for joining me. Now to you, former Foreign Minister. You just heard the news from the White House, with all sides professing great optimism. You just heard Mr. Shtayyeh from Ramallah. First and foremost, is Israel prepared to put anything forward to advance a stalled situation? Is Israel prepared to freeze and stop the settlements, for instance?
The good news is that President Trump wants to make the deal, and the deal serves the interest of Israel. And I believe that there is a great opportunity here. And talking about a deal is referring to the core issues. And I'm optimistic since President Trump meeting with Netanyahu, and he said, I want a deal. And I'm serious about it. I believe that now, when we have new president who truly wants a deal, and can, well, without forcing, but putting his influence on both sides, and having also the support of the Arab world, this can be a great opportunity to the region. And Israel should take also the steps that are needed in order to do so. And I can assure you one thing, politically in Israel, if Netanyahu wants to make the deal, he would have the support of us, and there is no political problems if he truly wants to make the deal. And this is something that is very important to understand. Vast majority of Israelis want to make the deal. They believe in two states for two peoples, and also in the Israeli parliament, in the Knesset, there is a majority to support it.
All right. Well, you just said Israel will have to do the things that it has to do. I assume that's code for freezing and stopping settlements. But let me ask you this. You've just said a two-state solution. But President Trump has been a little bit here and there on that issue. And this is what I'd like to play you from when he was meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu at the White House in February.
I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like. I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one.
You know, I don't know what you think about that. Two-state, one-state. I mean, even Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think I heard him chuckling in the background. Are we on a one-state or a two-state process here now?
There is only one deal. I mean, I believe also in thinking outside of the box, but there is only one deal between Israel and the Palestinians that represent the interest of both sides. Both sides would need to make compromises, but this is the only deal. I mean, the deal that President Trump referred to was not a deal between him and Netanyahu, or between Netanyahu and Naftali Bennett in Israel. It's a deal between two peoples, and the solution is based on two states for two peoples. Right. This is the only solution that serves the interests of both sides, and this is the only deal in town.
Well, listen, you just mentioned Naftali Bennett. He is really very far right. He has really out-of-the-box ideas on settlements and things. I mentioned the Hamas, which is very far on the extremes, the militant extremes of the Palestinians. You said there is support in the Knesset for peace. Is there? I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu seems to have been boxed in by his own extreme right-wing flank.
Netanyahu's choice after the last elections was to form this government, and this is why I make it very clear today that if he wants to make a deal, he would have the support. Because there is a majority to do so, so a decision-making is needed, and the support is given to make the real decision, to make the dramatic decisions that are needed. I didn't like, the comparison between extreme right in Israel and the terrorist organization, which is Hamas. But I would like to say a few things about Hamas, because when Hamas say today that they are willing to accept the Palestinian state 67 border, it is more important to understand that they are not willing to end the conflict. And the whole idea is not just to create another state in the region, but to end the conflict. And this is the true meaning of two states for two peoples. Right. And for many years now, Hamas is not willing to accept or to renounce violence and terrorism and to accept the right of Israel to exist. So the whole idea of two states for two peoples means also end of conflict.
Of course, that is the end state for peace. Can I ask you, though, about some of the interlocutors? You just mentioned the president's envoy, Mr. Greenblatt, has been to Israel. I want to know what he said to you. But I also want to know what you make of the president's faith in his, let's face it, untested son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Listen to this, please. Oh, goodness, we don't have a soundbite. But what he's saying is if anybody can make a deal between Israel and the Palestinians, it is Jared Kushner. How do you see that?
Well, I didn't meet him, but I met Jason Greenblatt, and he's very impressive man. He is listening, as Mohammad اشتية said, for all of us. He's listening to the Palestinians, to Israelis, from both sides of political spectrum in Israel. Is honest, smart, and I think that the meetings with him made all of us, in a way, optimistic. It's not just the statement made by the president, but also the seriousness that he showed in the discussions with all of us.
All right, and I hope to be able to convene you again in the next few months and see where the progress report takes us. Tzipi Livni, thank you so much for joining us.
Let's hope. We need some
Tel Aviv. Yes, you do. Yes, you do.